thing I loved about President Kennedy and all the Kennedys, including Patrick, it's always about possibilities. It's all about possibilities. It's never incremental. In 1961, President Kennedy's character makeup was a reflection not only of his generation, to state the obvious, but I think it was a historical reflection of America's character. And I'm absolutely confident that my generation and yours is not only up to the task, but quite frankly, we're better positioned to meet those daunting challenges in this young century. Ralph Waldo Emerson, I used to stutter a lot, and the way I overcame stuttering, I'd stand in front of a mirror and I'd repeat over and over and again, because my uncle had 2 volumes of Yeats and Emerson. They didn't like each other, but Yeats and Emerson. And I'd stand in front of a mirror and repeat passages so I could stop my face from contorting. When you stutter, your face contorts. And I remember one of my favorite quotes of Emerson was, he said, "Society is like a wave. The wave moves on, but the particles remain the same." America's character has not changed. It has not changed from what it was in 1961. What has occasionally changed is the lack of vision, the lack of leadership, the lack of boldness, the lack of resolve. We've become too incremental, in my view, in everything we do. You notice the national press always refers to me as the White House optimist, as if I'm the new kid in the block. I've been there for 8 presidents. As my grandfather would say, I didn't fall off the turnip wagon yesterday. I'm optimistic because I know the history of the journey of this country. Nothing incremental. President Kennedy has, as I do, an unlimited faith in the character and the aspirations of the American people. He knew that the American people had never, ever failed to rise to a challenge, never failed to overcome adversity, never let their country down when been challenged. From a revolution for independence to war to keep us united, to the throes of the Great Depression, to building and deploying an arsenal of democracy, to expanding democracy at home and civil rights and civil justice, America has always been at its best when it's been challenged the most. Literally, think about that from a historical perspective. Every major breakthrough that we have ever made as a nation has come at a moment of crisis. That's when we've seen our national grit, for lack of a better word, determination and ingenuity. And that's why President Kennedy said, speaking of the challenge to go to the moon, that if we came together and took up the challenge then, and I quote, in a very real sense, it would be one man going to the moon, but all of us having put him there. Even then, my friends and I sensed that this challenge is about a hell of a lot more than landing on the moon. It was bigger than that. It was about a truly new frontier, not in a political sense, a truly new frontier. You just knew in your gut that in the process of getting to the moon, the pursuit of the moon, it would open up whole new vistas for humanity. It would be a new measure of possibilities, a new mark of human achievement. President Kennedy knew that going to the moon would change the way we lived on Earth. If you really read the speech, which you all have done, that's what it was more about, quite frankly. That it wasn't about going to a distant world, but about bringing the United States into the modern world, about making sure that we didn't lose our place in the last half of the 20th century. And he was right then. The pursuit of the moon inspired thousands of my generation to pursue careers in engineering, science, technology, and unleashed one of the most significant expansions of scientific capacity the world has ever known, just as his political ascendancy unleashed in others of us an unlimited belief in the capacity of us to do good things. And my impression was that he never had a doubt that it would be this way, because he knew the history of the journey of the country. He knew the equation of America is that challenge plus investment equals progress. Patrick, you and your colleagues' work you're doing is truly, truly a modern moonshot. We know as much about outer space as we do about the brain. That's not literally true. I'm not a scientist, so that's my impression. But there's no question that President Kennedy's spirit is alive and well in this nation, in this audience, and in the DNA of Patrick Kennedy. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is, just as JFK could not have known that shooting the moon would create a semiconductor industry, which would give birth to the personal computer industry, which would give us IBM and Microsoft and Apple, which would give us the iPhone, and God knows what next. We can't not know. We cannot know with any degree of certainty what our fundamental recommitment to science and research and development will yield. But we do know from experience that the results will be greater than the sum of the parts, that the rewards will be greater than the original investment. We also know that the march into the future is going to continue whether we lead it or not. And President Kennedy understood this 50 years ago when he said, the exploration of space will go ahead whether we join it or not. And no nation which expects to be a leader of others can expect to stay behind in this race for space. I would argue no nation that expects to lead others can stay behind in the research projects in the areas that I've just outlined. No nation that expects to be a leader can afford to be a follower in these areas.